My last video was a sort of buyer's guide for various kinds of permanent Christmas lights. And my number one pick, called Bright Home Lights, drew a lot of questions because there really aren't many videos about it. So today, I'm giving you a deeper dive into Bright Home Lights, how they work, and where to place them on your house. Alright, so this is what Bright Home Lights look like when they're assembled. This track is assembled. You can see there are 10 LED pucks per string, and here, and I've got a string here for you too. So 10 individual lights, and each one of those lights has 3 LEDs on it, and there's 2 sides to it. There's an RGB side, and there's the white. That's a warm white side as well. All 3 of them have the same, so you can use these for warm white accent light, or you can use them with colors. And the string has a male and female connector on it, and these are known as X-Connect connectors, which is good because it's a standard that you can use to connect it to anything else. But this is how they fit together. There's a rubber gasket there. When you crank this down, it makes it nice and waterproof, and you don't have to worry about anything getting wet and corroding or anything like that. So this is completely waterproof. And in fact, when you pop the back off, you could see this entire thing is encased in like an epoxy. It's clear epoxy. All right, so this whole thing can be put underwater and it doesn't matter. And you can also get a closer look at the back. It does say that it is DC 12 volts. There's an arrow right here that points in that direction. The same arrows are on the front as well, and they point in that direction. Now, what that means is that's the flow of data in that direction. So this is the end that gets connected to the controller, and the data comes from the controller, and it travels down the wire to each one of these lights. There's little screw holes on here, and maybe you can actually screw these things up directly without using channels, but doesn't matter. Bright Home Lights are intended to be installed in channels. Now these are 30 millimeters is the size, and that's pretty standard size. So you'll see that this is a very common type of approach that they've taken here. But these have 10 lights per meter. Okay, that's what this is. It's a 1 meter string. Each one of these channels is 1 meter, I should say. So it's a meter's worth of lights. Now let's put one in and I'll show you what they're like. Now the channels themselves are very nice. They are aluminum, they're lightweight, but you can see they are powder coated white. This one is white, but you know, they come in different colors as well. Black, brown, and I think you can even get it custom colored. They'll paint them for you if you wanted to. And what you do is you would take this part and drill holes in it wherever you want them and drive screws into your home, wherever, under your trim, your soffit, whatever the case may be. And then you just take this and pop it up into it after the lights are inserted. So let's take a look at how that's done. It doesn't matter which side I start with, but I am going to start with the side that connects to the controller. And all I'm going to do is pop these things in here. They just snap right into place. Right like that. They have little barbs on them that hold them in place, but they are removable if you just work a little bit at popping the... I'm not going to take it out. Trust me, they do come out. They're just a little bit of a pain to take out, which is a good thing. Okay, got the whole thing attached. Now, the next thing is the controller. Now, they make a controller that you can buy, but these lights are compatible with WLED. Now, the reason why I always refer to WLED in all of my videos is because it's so universal and easy to use. It's also free. You just have to buy a controller. Now, this is a very simple controller. This one is from Atom. It comes with WLED pre-installed, and this one happens to have a microphone built into it, and it also has 2 data channels, so I can drive 2 different strings of different things if I wanted to, We don't have to get into that. Just know that you're going to have a controller. If you buy it from them, it makes it easier because everything's already set up the way that it works for their lights. If you get your own, you have to do a little bit of setup, but it's really not that hard. Now, the other thing that's important is to get the controller to send its data here. The way to do that is with a pigtail. They call this a pigtail. And it just has wires on the end of it and the connector on the other end. Now I got a little supplemental light here to set this up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hook this up on this controller. You have a ground, you have data 1, forget clock 1, data 2, clock 2, and VCC. VCC is common for voltage. I don't know what CC means, but that's the voltage. And this controller works with 5 to 24 volts. These lights are 12 volts, so you're always going to put in 12 volts with whatever controller you use. But that's what I'm going to do here. Now, the way this works is very simply, take the yellow one out. The yellow one is the signal. The red and black are for this is going to be positive and this is going to be negative, or ground. So on here, it's known as ground. So I'm going to put that into the ground, and I'm going to put this into the bottom one. And then this is the data wire. I'm just going to connect this one to data 1. Okay, now this power I can either put in 12 volts in through here, or I can actually connect it with a barrel connector, which I happen to have. Well, I heard it click and go on, so I'm not going to have it go on at the moment. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to plug this pigtail into the end of the string. Now, since this is just a test, I don't have to tighten that down. I'm just going to see how it works. And now, moment of truth. Let's plug this in. All right, and orange is the default color for WLED when you first turn it on. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two down here so we can see both strings. And they all just fit together like that. And now they're all lit. Now, because the channels are so nice and deep, you can actually have these things hidden inside the channels. You see how those connectors will hide in there. The other thing that they have is you have to inject power every 100 lights. So every 10 segments, you will have to inject power. And what that means, power injection is an interesting concept. Power injection is caused because after each one of these pixels, there's slight voltage loss over the length of the wire. It's not very thick wire, and it's 12 volts to begin with. So 100 pixels later, it might be down to, I don't know, let's say 10 volts. And if it drops any lower than that, the lights could go out downstream from that. So what you'd wind up doing is in between here, they make a T-junction or a T-connector that would click in here in between these two and provide 12 volts. And now that 12 volt wire can come all the way from through here, through this channel, all the way from your controller, or you can have supplemental transformers along the way, but that's a tricky thing. They recommend just having it come right from the controller. The data has to be contiguous throughout your whole string, from one end to the other. And you can put extensions in between, but you can't cut it and expect it to work. Now the controller, mine uses, I've got that little power supply over there, but this one, if you get it from them, it would come in an outdoor box that's made for permanent installation. It has a 12 volt transformer in it, as well as the controller that runs WLED, so everything would be fine from that perspective. And that's why I said it is easier to buy it directly from them. You'd need a hacksaw, and that's what you'd actually use to cut the channels. If you needed to shorten them, you can just cut the channels. They are light aluminum, so it's really not that hard to do. And if you needed to make corners, you can choose whether to kind of butt them together like this, or you can choose to make a 45-degree cut on both of them. So that's, in both cases, you're either going to use a combination of tin snips or a hacksaw. The controller is rated for outdoor use, so you could install it in your garage, or you can install it outside under your eave somewhere if you wanted to. So you can see here, there is plenty of room for running wires in that channel with it if you needed to. Now, in their guide, they recommend if you have to splice wires, which you will wind up doing, you will wind up having to cut some things, extend them, and having to splice. Now, they recommend cutting the wires and using electrical tape to make your splices. I'm not a fan of using electrical tape for outdoor connections. What I prefer is these kind of things. I got this little kit on Amazon, and it has all different size. These are called solderless connections, and there's this ring of solder right in here, and that solder melts when you put a flame on it or a heat gun. In fact, this entire tubing is heat shrink tubing, so it not only does it join the wires, but it also makes a nice watertight seal. So I really recommend them. They're not expensive. I'll put a link to these down in the video description, and that's just what I would really recommend as opposed to using electrical tape. All right, so Bright Home Lights has their app, which is really pretty easy to use. You can see I've played with several options here. I only have one of them that's on, that's this one. Okay, and if I click on it, it gets me into this is what WLED looks like. And like I said, you could see that it's orange is the default color, but I can change it to any color I want. And this is just solid, obviously. And the way these little LEDs work is there's 3 little LEDs within them. Actually, in this case, there's 4 because there's also the white channel. If I turn this up right here, you'll see the white channel. So you can see how the white channel goes. And so that's actually green with white. If I turn the green down, you can see it's just white. And that I made it really dim. If I make them bright, they're like awesome. They're awesome. So I can control the brightness overall. I can control the brightness of the green, how much green I want. And if I don't want the white channel, I can just turn that off. So white is basically a separate channel in here. All right, so I have a few, let's say, presets that I have here in WLED that I created, and I will show them to you. So the first one is called Candy Cane, and it just scrolls through like a candy cane. I can control the effect speed here. Fast, slow. And I can control the width of how far apart, or you know, what cluster, how many. This is 3. You can see there's 3 red, then 3 green, or 3 white. And this just makes it wider. So depending upon how many pixels you have on your house, you can play with it and see what looks best for you. This is red and green Android. And then I have a red and green fade. It's like red at the one end, green here. And this is just what I call my red, white, and blue solid. And you can put this on your house for any of the patriotic holidays, 4th of July, Memorial Day, you name it. And you can also set this up so that it has multiple reds, multiple whites, multiple blues, instead of just one each. But one of my favorite for the holidays is, this is called Theater. And it is just I guess like an old-fashioned theater. The lights that move around on an old-fashioned theater, they just go in succession and they just roll around. And you can change the gap size between them. So there I've only got 2 green at a time. And here I've got a lot of green. And that one, every other one, almost. So it's almost like a carnival type thing. But I like it. I use this one. I used it on my house a lot last year. And I just really think it's one of my favorites for the holidays anyway. All right, so let's say I wanted to put these up on my house. The best practice when putting up channels is you would use one of these. Now, obviously, they're the same size. The bottom is the same size as the top. But what you would actually do is cut a portion of the bottom so that it's offset. You don't actually start it here. They recommend, in order for these things to stay nice and straight, you would actually want them offset. So you could start with half a bottom track and then pop in the whole thing. And if I pop these two in, you'll see why I did this, because, let me get it in though. Okay. Now it's one continuous piece, and it holds this joint nice and tightly together. Okay, so that's why you would start with half a piece. And that way, I can hold this and demonstrate how it looks on the house. So, you've got two choices really. You're going to put it close to the house, or you're going to put it far away from the house. And that's really what we're going to decide here. Now, what I have this set to is this is just the warm white LEDs. So this would be good for, security lighting or accent lighting. So far from the house, close to the house. All depends on the shadows you want to see. Now this is a more of a dim warm white accent color. Not so much security lighting, although it is kind of like a night light. You can see. That's far away. That's close. Okay, this is a very famous candy cane effect that everybody with WLED uses. I apologize that I'm in the way, but I'm not going to install these on my house just yet. But that's close, and that's far. Okay, that's the edge of my soffit. Now, obviously, the edge of the soffit, you could put it anywhere in between the soffit, but I think it'd be more visible. Putting it towards the edge of the soffit or in the back are definitely the better approach, in my opinion. And the thing about having it in the back is obviously you can see the light reflecting off the house a little bit better. When you pull it out here, it's blurrier. I mean, they kind of wash into each other. And you'll see that with some of the other effects first. And here's one of them. This is Red Green Android. It's a little wild, but here you can see the colors right on the house. Whereas if you hold it out further, you don't get the same effect. It's a little different. Still looks nice, just a little different. This is the red, white, and blue. See, close to the house, you can see the individual colors. If you pull it far away from the house, they just all blur together, and it just kind of looks like, I don't know, slightly off-white, like a pinkish white almost. But if you make it 4 lights, again, see the colors a little bit better when it's close. You can see a little bit of it, right? The red, white, and blue there looks a little bit better. You could also tilt them if you really wanted to, but I don't know that you want to. Here's another Christmas pattern I like. This one is called Saw. Again, you can see it very well when it's tight against the house. When it's further away, not so much. But you can see the pixels very well, so does it really matter to you? I don't know. That's something you got to decide. And this is another one of my favorites. It's just called Theater. It looks, at least close to the house, you can see the reflection of the lights individually, but when you pull it away, it just kind of looks like yellow on the house, but you can still see the lights up top. And that's back to the warm white. All right, I'm actually glad that I did this test because in retrospect, I think they look better when they're further out from the house. So when you do a Govee or something like that, you want it close to the house because you want the pattern on the house. But honestly, I think these look so much better when they are at the edge of the soffit. So hopefully you found this video helpful and you learned a little bit about bright home lights. And if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, Hey there, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be the first to know when new videos are posted. Look for HandyDadTV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and visit the website HandyDad.tv for more great ideas and information.